No one does boss battles quite like From Software, and we're really excited to see what they've cooked up for Elden Ring. Although maybe the word there should actually be petrified? I'm not sure. The studio's dark imagination combined with the awesome power of the Xbox Series X and S sounds like a recipe for success, and we can't wait to see what they've got in store for us this time when Elden Ring arrives on February 25th. So, to help get ready, let's take a look back at some of the most unforgettable big bads in From Software history that will help give your Tarnished the edge.
One of the most exhilarating moments that we've seen so far in Elden Ring comes when a ginormous dragon crashes down out of the sky to pick a fight with you. It's a visceral, shocking sight made all the more terrifyingly beautiful thanks to the power of the Xbox Series X and S. But From Software veterans will already be well versed in the art of dragon slaying. Early on in the DLC for Dark Souls, players spy a dark, scaly figure perched on a bridge above them. At first, the black dragon Kalameet peacefully flies off, suggesting that this winged beast might have just been a fun background detail rather than, a gruesome promise of things to come. But that's not really how From Software rolls. When you eventually do square off with him, it's as every bit as tough as a fight with a dragon should be. Between his vicious claws, flailing tail, and jets of scorching black fire shooting out of his mouth, Kalameet can kill you 16 different ways before you've even drawn a sword. With the likes of the ancient dragon Dark Eater Midir and the truly nightmare-inducing gaping dragon also on the books, no one does dragon fights like From Software, and we can't wait to see what's terrorizing the skies of Elden Ring. Remember, if you want to get your practice in, Dark Souls Remastered runs at a swift 60 FPS on Xbox Series X and S, meaning you can time your evasive maneuvers with more precision than ever.
While we're obsessively poring over previous From Software games in search of clues for where Elden Ring might take us, it's worth remembering that they did tip their hand once before. Their most recent game, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, transported their brutal brand of combat over to the world of feudal Japan. But this wasn't the first time seasoned Souls players had a katana drawn on them. Sir Alonne is a mysterious figure who turns up in Dark Souls 2, wearing full samurai garb. And he's no cosplayer either. Sir Alonne really is a terrifyingly talented swordsman who can slice you into ribbons in the bat of an eye. He's also one of the few enemies capable of parrying your attacks, allowing you to experience the sinking sensation that comes with having your finely timed blow effortlessly battered away, knowing full well that a devastating counterattack is now incoming. As formidable as this boss fight is, it's fun to think that it might have planted the seed that grew into Sekiro. Almost makes our suffering at Sir Alonne's hands worth it. Almost. Elden Ring seems to be offering a wide variety of enemies, so getting used to foes with different weaponries and capabilities in the Souls world seems to be a good use of your time.
The Guardian Ape turns up just around the time when the player is starting to feel like they've just started to get a handle on Sekiro's unique sword fighting system, allowing them to feel like a little bit of a badass. And when you're riding high, there's nothing like a giant monkey paw to the face to bring you crashing back down to earth. And from Souls to Sekiro, that's what From Software games are so good at. They force you to steadily refine your skills and then, just as you're starting to get comfortable, pull the rug out from underneath your feet. And there are few better rug pulls in gaming history than the monkey business which occurs halfway through this particular boss battle. If this is anything to go by, we can only imagine the shocking surprises which Elden Ring has in store. Battling the Guardian Ape is sure to be great practice for thinking on your toes in case an enemy changes tactics midway through, and given what we've seen from Elden Ring so far, this is a dangerously real possibility in the lands between.
Not only have From Software come up with a rogues gallery of formidable foes for players to face off against, but they've also never been shy about throwing more than one of them at you at the same time. And that's where things get truly grueling. Take the devious double act of Dragon Slayer Ornstein and Executioner Smough, for example. Ornstein is a fiendishly fast swordsman, laying siege to the player with a barrage of rapid attacks, while Smough is a brutish, hammer-wielding powerhouse who, according to the game's lore, would quite literally like to grind your bones to make his bread. Either one would make a daunting boss battle on their own, so together they make for one hell of a showdown. And since From Software just love to twist the knife, whichever one you slay first is then absorbed by the survivor, making them even stronger. We know that Elden Ring is going to be full of challenges like this double team of epic proportions, so if nothing else, it's a good tussle to sharpen up your reaction speed with.
Another thing we know is going to play a role in Elden Ring is mounted combat. And while you won't be able to work on your horse riding skills by dipping back into any previous games, you can prepare for mounted enemies, like the Tree Sentinel by returning to the very first boss fight in Sekiro. Gyobu, Masataka, Oniwa, to give his full name, which I just butchered, comes tearing towards you outside of the Isshin castle, wielding a heck of a lot of horsepower, as in he's literally riding a gigantic and very powerful horse, which he will happily run right over the top of you given half the chance. The trick here is the usual grappling hook to snatch him as he rides past, laying a few slashes on him before retreating to a safe distance. Who knows whether you'll have access to that particular stratagem when Elden Ring comes around though, so prepare to get creative when the cavalry does arrive. You might also want to take some tips from him ahead of riding and fighting with your own steed Torrent too. After all, with the power of the Xbox Series X fueling the fast-paced combat, every second counts.
Hearing the name Isshin the Sword Saint, you might be hoping to meet a good-natured fellow renowned for his charitable works. Sadly, Isshin has more in common with the many saints of Newark than the other kind, and you are the next name on his whack list. There's no faulting his swordsmanship though, as his fighting skills really are divine, assaulting the player with an insane variety of attacks, all delivered with punishing speed and killer precision. And the reason you'll find Isshin sitting at the very end of the game isn't just because he's hard as nails, but because you need to use everything you've learned along the way if you want to defeat him. It's this emphasis on mastering the game's techniques that makes Sekiro, as well as the Souls games that came before it, so viscerally satisfying when it all clicks, and you get to turn the tables on a previously insurmountable foe. Here's hoping for more of the same later in the month.
The Fume Knight from Dark Souls 2 is another fight that shows exactly why From Software games are the ones players use to really test their gaming mettle. Some battle plans are more nuanced than others, and the Fume Knight's is about as basic as they come. He's got a sword the size of a small car, he's going to hit you with it as hard as he can. It's not very elegant, but it is undeniably effective, with each mighty swing clearing out a soul-destroying amount of health. Plus, he's got a really varied moveset, making it all harder to avoid getting smacked. Given the silky, fast-paced action we've seen of Elden Ring so far, Fume Knights offers a chance to hone all of your battling muscles. Incredibly, From Software have reported that the fail rate for players coming up against the Fume Knight is around the 93% mark, which should make everyone who's managed to overcome him feel even better about themselves and make us all even more excited, and admittedly intimidated, by what the studio will have in store for us come the 25th of February. Do you think they can top that 93% stat? I think they might.
But while these games all have a well-earned reputation for difficulty, we don't just love them because we're gluttons for punishment. Outside of the perfectly calibrated combat, it's the way each boss fight feeds into the world around it and the larger story that makes these boss encounters so memorable. And that's never truer than with Knight Artorias and his trusty companion, the Great Grey Wolf, Sif. Knowing that the Good Knight was once an honourable man adds an air of tragedy to the whole battle. Yeah, it's hard to feel too sympathetic while you're dodge rolling for your life, but there is an undeniable bittersweet quality to squaring off with this fallen hero. But that's nothing compared to the feels you'll get from battling the loyal canine that guards his grave. You'll never feel less heroic than when Sif starts limping later on in the fight, and you press in to deliver that killer blow to an unquestionably good boy who is just trying to protect his fallen master. Few games can provide the level of pure gaming challenge that the From Software titles do, whilst also getting you emotionally involved in the story that they're telling. And now that they've enlisted George R.R. Martin as well, prepare to have your heart broken all over again.
Those who have played through all 3 Dark Souls games will love discovering the little connective threads between each game. Although sometimes it's a thread you have been better off not pulling at, like when the final boss from the first game, Gwyn, makes a terrifying return in Dark Souls 3. Well, kind of anyway. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, is your final opponent in Dark Souls, and naturally he's a pretty tough customer who can swing a flaming sword with the best of them. It's a fittingly tough challenge for a game built of nothing but nail-biting encounters, and seeing Gwyn finally buckle is one of the most satisfying experiences you'll have with a gamepad in hand, especially if it's in the glorious 60 frames per second of Dark Souls Remastered. However, don't co-sign him to the ash heap just yet. The 3rd game rounds off with you fighting an amalgamation of all the previous lords called the Soul of Cinder, and I do mean all of them. Halfway through the battle, Gwyn's unforgettable theme begins to play as the Soul of Cinder turns that patented fire sword on you once again. It's another exercise in a variety of styles being thrown your way, often without warning. Elden Ring looks set to take place in its own distinct dark fantasy realm, away from the Soulsverse, but we can't help but wonder if we'll find any nods to the previous games lurking in its shadows. It's best to get some preparation in against all From Software baddies, just in case they come back to haunt you.
If you can find a way to hack and slash through even a few of these bosses, you might just find yourself a little more battle ready by the time Elden Ring hits Xbox Series X and S on February 25th. Then again, knowing From Software, they'll still find brand new ways to test, frustrate, and horrify you this time around. But at least you can't say you weren't warned. For all the latest Elden Ring news and updates on all things Xbox, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Bye!